So for the water storage tanks, if you are going to talk with the water storage tank, we are going to discuss with NFPA 22, because NFPA 22 is for a standard for water tanks for private fire protections. What is the material of the tank? What is the design material? How to construct the material? What is the support? Everything you can found in NFPA 22. So the scope, if you are looking at 1.1, the scope is that this standard provide minimum requirement for design, construction, installation, and maintenance of the tank. So we are going to work with that, which includes the following: gravity tanks, suction tanks, towers, foundation, piping connection and fittings, valve, tank filling, and protection against freezing. So all those things we'll discuss in this module. 1.2 is for purpose. What is the purpose for the tanks? It is just the basis for designing, constructing, operation, and maintenance of water tanks for private fire protection system. So in first, we are going with some of the general definitions. What definition are there in NFPA 22? You can see at the screen, we have the break tank. Break tank is the normally we need in between public fire water supply and connection to the private fire protection system. I mean before the tank, before the fire pumps. So the definition of the break tank is that a tank providing suction to a fire pump whose capacity is less than the fire protection demand. So it's just like we using break tanks after taking connection from the public fire protection, public supply, public water supply. We'll discuss that one in detail. For now, just you can see that the break tank, it is before the fire pump, and the suction of the fire pump coming from this break tank if there is a supply from the municipal water supply. We'll discuss in detail in a while. Suction tank means any tank providing water to a fire pump. And there are different types of the suction tanks. We have above ground suction tank, underground suction tank, and a gravity suction tank. The one you can see, it is a suction tank, above ground suction tank. Most common you can found is in Saudi Arabia or any petrochemicals or any kind of the plant. This is the most common one. So the design of this tank, you have to design the tank in such a way that when the pump is running at 150% of the capacity. Now we'll discuss what is the 150% of the capacity. Suppose the pump running at the pump is rated for 1000 gpm, 1000 gpm, and with some pressure. If that pump is running at 150% of the pump capacity, it means the pump is going to take 1500 gpm, because this one we call 150% of the pump from performance curve. So what I'm trying to say that the tank should be sized for the pump duration. Duration means what is the fire protection system maximum capacity, maximum supply in number of hours. Normally it is from 1 to 4 hours. Based on that, we have to calculate. Suppose your fire protection system required 4 hours of water supply continuous, right? So we need 4 hours of water into this tank, and wind pump is running at 150% of the capacity. Yes, Jackie. No connection. The one you can see at the screen, we have a ground level suction tank. This is just the general component of the suction tank. You can see in the left we have the notes, we have the description of each component, and in the right we have the schematic diagram. The one we can see, there is a tank, and just below the tank we have a fire pumps which is taking suction from those area. The first one is the pump suction tank, and the second we have a screen vent at the top. If there is some air is there inside the tank, it will go outside. The third one is overflow piping. This overflow. Suppose the tank is continuously pumping water to refill the tank, and there is piping water going above this pipe, the overflow connection. The water will go out from the tank. The fourth you can see, it is the steam coil for heating. Now this is normally required in area where we have problem with the temperature. When we are going temperature in the minus, or where we have freezing condition, in that time we need steam coil for heating. Normally in the western countries like Canada, USA and Europe, where temperature is always in minus, they need this kind of the arrangement. But we have in Saudi Arabia, I think there is no problem with the freezing temperature. The fifth is the coupling going to the tank, the fire pumps. Six is the vortex flow, vortex plate. Now, what is the vortex plate? Vortex plate is an assembly. It's just like a plate. If water is going at the bottom level, at the last point of the tank, at that time, along with the water, there might be some air will coming to the piping, and that will go to the pump, which will damage the impeller. So to avoid that, we have a vortex plate. We'll discuss that one in detail. And then we have the flashing around tank manhole at the top, so that someone can go inside the tank for the maintenance purpose, and valve feed, drainage, and all those things. I think the one at the bottom, you can see this is a part of the construction based on the civil and mechanical structure. We have a gravity tank. Gravity means, the water is coming from the top due to the gravity, So yes.
I can't hear you.
Does anyone anyone having problem with my voice, or hello?
No, I heard you loud
Yes.
and clear. There's no problem here for me.
يمكن من النت سجل.
sign out وبعدين sign in عبد الله.
كيف؟
اطلع وادخل مرة ثانية.
اوكي يلا.
So we have a elevated gravity storage tanks. This is one of the arrangement. This is at the top of the building, and the water is coming due to the gravity. Because this is a gravity storage tank, and the structure, the steel column on which the tank is supported. This must be designed in such a way that due to the fire, the heat cannot damage the structure. So it should be fireproof with fire resistant material for 2 hours, or as recommended by the designer. What is the required duration for fire protection system of those areas. The one here we can see is a tank riser. It's another kind of tank arrangement where most of the time we are getting water due to the gravity. It is a high column, and due to the cost of the fabrication of this tank and the maintenance requirement for the fire protection purpose in our areas in Middle East, we are mostly this kind of the arrangement you cannot see in normal ways, but in those countries like the western countries, you can find this in some parts like a common tanks for supplying water to fire protection system. Now we have listened to public water works system. You guys downloaded the book manual that I uploaded 2 days before to the Blackboard. Yes. Hello.
I think everyone have it in the Blackboard in the home.
Yeah, they have downloaded. Okay.
I don't know if they downloaded, but it's available for them.
So here we have connection to public water supply of public water work system. When we are talking about public water system, we are mainly talking about the public water system is for supplying water to various localities for the utilities like for the drinking water or whatever you are found in our houses and all for our daily day-to-day purpose. That is the potable water. Just wait a minute. So public water works means this one supplying water to various houses for the drinking purposes and all kind of the sanitary work, public health department. Now, if we can take water also from the public water work system, where you have a municipal supply of the water line to the localities. While taking water from the public water work system, we have to put our put some of the following points while deciding whether we can get enough water from the public water supply for our fire protection system. The first one is the capacity and the pressure, right? The public water works mainly it is for the household works, right? For the utilities, for your bathroom, for the drinking water purpose, and all kind of the sanitary work, not for the fire protection system. In that area, the pressure is always low. Pressure is not as much high required that like our fire protection system. Let's say that 2.5 bar is most of the common application in the household with the utilities and all for a sanitary purpose. But our fire protection system sometimes need higher pressure that we cannot directly take from the public water supply. So we have to make sure what is our demand, means how much flow we need for our fire protection system and what is the pressure at that one. If there is no enough pressure, we can put a pump to boost the pressure or a booster pump to boost the pressure for our requirement. This is the first thing. So we have to make sure about the flow and the pressure available for our fire protection system. The second one is the hourly variances. Based on the number of hours during the time to time, the consumption of the water is getting changed. Let's say in the morning, everyone wake up and they want to go to the office. So all the person in those areas using those waters, at that time maybe the flow is very low, right? And that flow may not fit our demand for the fire protection system. What is the idea that we have to take out of 24 hours, what is the time on that duration we have maximum demand, maximum consumption from the public, right? From the sanitaries and all kind of the work in those areas. If all the maximum demand fulfill and still we are getting enough pressure and flow from those public water works, we can use connection from that for our fire protection system. This is the idea about that one. And then we have the future growth, right? Suppose they have just opened a new city and there is only one area they have constructed the public water supply, and maybe that city going to expand in the future, right? So they will utilize the same water connection for that area. And now in the first phase of the design of the water work system, you're taking water from those areas, but maybe during the future growth of the city, when the residential area expand, that time demand of flow and pressure will go higher. Maybe due to that, the supply cannot be enough for our fire protection system, because our fire protection system needs some fixed amount of water at some fixed pressure for durations like 4 hours, 1 to 4 hours based on the demand. So idea is that we have to keep emphasize on all those things. Did you got this point? The public water works, right? Okay. Moving on to the next slide. We have cross connection between public and private supplies, right? Now, what is the meaning of cross connection? Public public water supply, public water supply, it is for the hygienic purpose, for the consumption of daily demand in each household, right? They can drink the water, they can use that water for all kind of the purpose at the house and all. And now we have the private supplies. The private supplies we are calling for the fire protection system. Now the public water supply is potable water, means it is able to, it is hygienic condition and we can consume that water, we can drink that water, we can take for, all kind of the purpose we can see. The private supply or fire protection system, sometimes they use, most of the time we don't want so pure water as compared to the drinking and all. We need we call it non-potable waters, right? So what happens sometimes, due to the difference in the pressure, right? Fire protection system working at 12 bar, and the pressure in the private public side is around, let's say, 5 bar. So what will happen? The pressure from the fire protection system will be so much enough that it will push toward the public connection to the main water lines for the general household consumptions. Now this water, the fire protection system water contains, some kind of the dirt particles, some kind of the pollutant that is not good for drinking. So when this water mixed with that water, the water is not hygienic, and there is a issue with the public health, right? Public health issues, and so we call this cross connections. So when you are using cross connection, you have to use the backflow prevention. Now, what is the backflow prevention? We'll discuss that in a while, and I will go in more detail for the backflow prevention. Now we came for the sources of water supply, from where we can get water for the fire protection system. We can get water from ground tanks and cisterns, rivers and ponds, small stream and brooks, harbors and rivers and wells. Most of this requirement you can find in in our area. In our area, most of the time we are not taking water from river or ponds, small stream and brooks, harbor, rivers, and all, because this seminar, this classes is totally based on NFPA, and NFPA says all those requirements, because in those areas they might use this kind of the connection, because water availability is there in adequate quantity in some of the government in USA, Canada, and other parts of the world. So we have included this one. We'll have a look at this regarding the requirement and various things. Now there is a ground tanks and cistern. The first one, we are talking about the ground tanks and cisterns. Suppose there is a hydrant, there is no water supply to the hydrant, and one way to ensure that, to use this arrangement. You can see that one. There is one tank. We call it ground tank or cisterns, right? We call ground tanks and cisterns. The capacity is very limited, right? The capacity is like 1,000 gallon to 3,000 gallon, and 10,000 gallon to 30,000 gallons, and it is connected to a dry hydrant head assembly, right? And there is a different vent connection, NST coupling for filling the tank. What will happen? In some area, if there is no water supply, and if there is a fire in those areas, the fire department team come, they will connect their fire hose cabinet here, right? Fire hose reel, and they will take water from here to fighting the fire. And you can, this is the oldest cistern, we can see that one, but it's not common in our area, right? They are mainly using this one in San Francisco and Chicago, in some other part, some other part of the US cities. They can use this one, but as far concerned to our Middle East, we are not using this arrangement in most of the cases. river and ponds. Again, you can take water from river also and ponds also, but there is some of the criteria that we have to make sure that water is always available in the river at some level. You know, normally in the river, water level in the river goes up and down based on the season. Maybe in the summer the water goes down, or in the rainy season the water level go up. So we have to be careful while selecting our approach with the river and ponds. You can see here this fire department trucks taking water from the river in case of the fire. So this case, river and ponds, mostly applicable for the fire department team, right? For the pumper or for the fire trucks to take water from those areas to fight fire in case of some emergencies. We have a small stream and brooks. Here we have a small stream and brooks. You know, if there are water available in these areas, and if we allows that you can take water from this area with some condition that we have to be careful about the location where the fire apparatus will stand, because you can see in the figure we have to take our trucks to nearby area to take water from this area in case of the fire. Again, all those requirements, the one I am discussing, mostly this is not for the fixed fire system. Most of the cases they are taking this one for for in case of the emergency fire department team from where they are going to take the water in case of the fire. Again, we have harbor and river, you know, on the dockyards area, on the seaside. The problem with the harbor and river is that, you know, the water level goes up and down, you know, time to time it go up and down. So there are some problem while utilizing this kind of the connection, because the level of the water is always fluctuating in this area. So this is not so much useful, but again there are some areas they are using in those areas, not in our Middle East region. You can see in the figure, this is harbor region and they are taking water from one at this location. At maybe that time there is some ship coming in those areas, so the level of water may go up and down. We have to be carefully consideration given for this. Now because we are coming for the wells, yeah, we can take water from the well, and you know it's very popular in domestic use and fire supply for the industrial side. Most common in the rural area, right, where there is no public water supply or where there is no arrangement for those. So the well is one of the best supply in those areas. But we have to make sure that, you know, groundwater available before making a well, before constructing a well. We have to be careful regarding the groundwater availability in those areas. We have to make sure that for a month, for 12 months, what is available of water in those areas, and if it is a sufficient capacity for our fire protection system. And again, we need to use vertical shaft turbine pump for taking water from the well. You cannot use other kind of the centrifugal fire pumps because of the negative suction creation. We'll discuss that in detail in fire protection fire pumps. So many persons left and came. So now when you are determine that reliability of supply tank, supply works, we should keep following things in our mind. You know, when we are saying how reliable is this water source for our fire protection system, because fire protection system need water at much of the time, and we have to be careful with that, right? So the following things we need to consider in our mind: the minimum yield, frequency and duration of the drought, right? What are the, in page number 27 or 28 of your books, you can see that one. Normally in some areas, during summer time, there might be drought and there might be no availability of the water, so we have to be careful regarding that one. Condition of intakes, when we are talking about the condition of intakes, what kind of the dust particles or any foreign material in the water available at those areas. What is the quality of water? If the water is so corrosive that will damage our pump and fire protection system, we have to be careful about the selection of material for the system. Possibility of earthquakes, flood, and forest fire. If there is a flooding in those areas, all the system will go on away. Or if there is a forest fire, we have to be careful regarding that one. Ice formation. Ice formation, normally if temperature goes below freezing temperature, the water will not able, we cannot take the water because it will convert to the ice. Sitting up or shifting of the river channel, time to time, in summer or winter, the temperature go up and down. Sorry, the level of water go up and down. We have to be careful regarding that. And how about the security of the installation to prevent physical damage? We have to prevent our fire protection system from the physical damage. If something happens, the system will go away. Availability of the replacement parts of the equipment. We know that maintenance required for the fire protection system. From time to time, we have to be careful that all the parts are available and we can replace it easily. This is some of the adequacy and reliability of supply. We have to be careful regarding that. Now coming to means of moving water, right? We know that we have to push water at high elevation. Normally, if the height of the building is above 12 stories, right? If the building height is above 12 stories, and for that building, we need different risers. There is an express riser above that, and water will go to the. We call it pressure zoning of the system, right? So now if the building height is more than 12 stories, in those areas we need a separate water distribution system, usually provided for the elevated section, so that pressure can be maintained in those areas. Right? So there is an express riser. The riser take water to only after 12th floor, and there will be one tank, and from that tanks another fire protection fire pump arrangement, and the pump can take to the other parts of the building. So what is the idea regarding that? What is the main reason for discussing here? We discussed that in basics of hydraulics. If you guys remember that with 1 psi we can lift 2.3 feet of water, right? With 1 psi we can lift 2.31 psi, 2.3 feet of water vertically, right? So if you are going vertically about 12 stories, we almost need pressure that may go above 175 psi, right? And also keep in mind that let me go to the blackboard. I think we can discuss there. Suppose this is a high-rise building, okay, and suppose this is a high-rise building, and this is the 12th floor, right? And let's say this building is at a height of 85 meters, right? So if the fire pump at the base of the, if we have fire pump at the base, right, and taking water from this one to this level, right, at the top, sorry, the arrow goes curve, but it is just straight, right? Keep in mind. This is our pump room, and we are taking water from the pump room up to this level, right? This is the 12th floor. Just let's say this is at height of 80 meters, right? If you are converting 80 meters to the feet, right, we know that 1 psi can live 2.31 feet. If you guys remember from our hydraulics book. So if you are converting 80 meters to the feet, it must be around, if you're converting 80 into 2.3, the calculator. (80 meters into, sorry, 3.3. 1 meter is equal to 3.3 feet. So if you are converting meter into feet, it comes around 264. Feet, right? So we know that 1 psi need to live 2.31 feet. So you have to divide this 264 by 2.31 feet to get how much psi we need to get up to 80 meters of the building height, right? So if you are further going, dividing 264 by 2.31, we'll get some values. Right? Yeah. Thanks, Naif. We need 114 psi, right? Now, in most of the cases, what we know that the maximum pressure in fire protection system cannot go above. As for NFPA recommend that maximum pressure in fire protection can be 175 psi, because if you are going more than that 175 psi, we need piping fittings and fire protection component of higher pressure ratings, which increase the weight of the material and the costing of the material. So what is the idea behind that? For this level up to 80 meter, we need 114 psi at this one to lift water up to this height, right? We need to lift water up to this height. We need 11. Yes.
Yes, I see a blank page. You are writing something?
Yeah, I'm writing something. You can see the blackboard, right? There is some blocks and some writing on the blackboard.
It's white.
Yeah, it's white. You cannot see it.
I cannot see
Yes?
anything.
Me too.
It's clear for me.
Yeah, some guys
I
saying
think
it's clear. I think.
it's all page showing.
No, they are, I'm writing also there in the blue lines. You know, the blue color I have used. Other
No,
guys
I
can
can
see the blackboard.
I see nothing. There is
You
no
are in
blue.
there is no blue.
It's just whiteboard.
How about the other guys? Can you see the blackboard? Yeah, I can see
clear.
there is one. Yeah, there is some guy was saying they are clear. Maybe there is problem with your network. Maybe.
Not clear, not clear.
Okay. Let me re-share again. So what I was trying to concern for those guys it is not clear. I will explain you. I will share you some in the Word file after this class regarding this topic so that you can see it clearly. But now we will move on, and I will explain that one in Word file what I was trying to explain. Normally, I was trying to explain for a height of 80 meters, right? We need at least 114 psi of water, 114 psi pressure to lift water up to this much height, right? Now we lift water at this height, and suppose there is one fire hose connection, right? Standpipe system fire hose connection that need minimum 100 psi pressure. For operating that one, we need 100 psi pressure. So we already lost 114 psi to lift water up to that height. Now again we need 100 psi. So what will happen in that? If you are combining this together, we'll go to 214 psi. The pressure goes very high, right? So we have to design system in such a case that either water after this level will go by one risers, and then from this area again we'll put another tanks, another fire pump equipment, another pressure zoning to deliver water to the upper part of the building. Or we can use the fire pumps of higher capacities, you know, multi-stage pumps having different outlet. There is a low pressure zone, high pressure zone. Low pressure zone can go up to this level, and high pressure zone can go above that level. We'll discuss that one in detail in fire pump. We will discuss fire pump maybe tomorrow. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to say that one. 114 psi is the pressure required to lift water up to this level, right? Now, maximum pressure in NFPA recommend in water phase fire protection system is 175 psi, right? So if the pressure goes above that one, we can use the pipe and fittings of higher pressure ratings. Means that can withstand pressure up to 24 bar or 350 psi. NFP also said that these rules don't apply to standpipe system. You know, like a standpipe system which you use to connect the top of the building. In that area, we know that the building height is so high. The normal pump cannot take water up to that much height. So we can use up to 350 psi pressure in those areas. So we need different pump. There are different kind of different kind of the arrangement. There are multi-stage pump, and we have pressure zones, different pressure zones, right? We can take the express riser. We can take express riser to lift water up to the top of the building. Let's say one riser will go up to this much height, the other riser will go after that. We cannot connect one. The third option is we can use the PRV, pressure relief valve or pressure reducing valve, to reduce the pressure in the lower zone and increase the pressure in the higher zone. For those who not getting this sheet, I will share you this detail after this class in a Word file and send to you, attached to the Blackboard. You can download from there and see. And if you have any comments, you can ask me tomorrow. Now let me go to share file again. Now we come to the water storage tank. There are different kind of the storage arrangement we can use for storing water. It might be elevated tank, it might be ground level supply, or underground storage tanks of metal, wood, plastic, rubberized, rubber fabric are example of some of the storage facilities. And the one we discussed, river, ponds, lakes, and all those things we can also use. This all should be designed, constructed, and allowed as per NFPA 22. Now we are coming to John Freeman. He is one of the scientists. He was a hydraulic engineer, right? John Freeman was well known for his contribution to the hydraulic engineering, and his work, one of his great work was for Panama Canal. He did some excellent work in Panama Canal for the water analysis and all. He have given some of the analysis for water utilizes for the fire protection system and water utilizes for the general utilities like public health and all sanitization work we can see at our homes. What he differentiate that he says that the ordinary supply need and the fire protection supply need is totally different, right? The ordinary supply may be sometime high, sometime low. Our consumption will be sometime high, sometime low. Let's say that I discussed that I discussed earlier. In the morning, maybe there will be high pressure and flow requirement, high pressure and high demand for the municipal area, for the residential area. People are getting up and going to the office, taking bath, consuming water and all. But maybe in the daytime, the demand will be low and the availability of the water will be the high, right? So what the John Freeman says that we have to keep in mind the fire protection system should be sized in such a way that in any time, in any case, 24/7 into 365 days, the supply for the fire protection system cannot be below the design of the system. Let's say a pump needs 5 hours of continuous water supply for a high hazard fire protection system. So we need supply in the water in the tank for 5 hours continuous without any problem. This is the first thing John Freeman said. The second point he emphasized that he said that the water system where to supply fire protection need, the distribution system should be designed to concentrate the needed amount of water. Means we need a tank to store water in that. This is the earlier stage of the fire engineering when he was doing lots of the research and emphasized this point. But he says that a small pipe were sufficient, but large ones were needed to consider supply to the fire stream. When I'm talking about the water streams, the water coming from a nozzle, what is the stream of the water? How far the water can go? You must have shown that in case of the fire in a building, maybe the fire department team from the bottom of the building fighting the fire and putting the water up to the top from the monster nozzle or some kind of the nozzle to lift water up to that much height, right? So in public water supply, you can use less diameter pipe, but fire protection system may need larger pipes for the system. Based on his studies, he suggests that 6-inch pipe is the minimum diameter pipe for residential district. Suppose in the residential area, in your areas, if there is a fire protection system requirement, the 6-inch underground network is okay for those areas. But if you are going for higher areas, 8-inch pipe was adequate only if formed part of the network distribution pipe whose intersections were not far apart. The next point, what John Freeman says that what is the distance between two hydrants, right? You can see you must be walking towards hydrant, but the fire hydrants are not closely spaced. Maybe the fire hydrant spaced after 100 meter apart or maybe 122 meter apart and all those things. Now we have standard. We can directly refer to various code like Saudi Building Code, International Building Code, or NFPA 1 for the water flow requirement for the hydrant. But at that time, when the research work was underway, the John Freeman says that his work says that in the residential area we can use up to 153 meter distance between two hydrant. The minimum is 76 meter, yes, 76 meter between two hydrant in the mercantile and manufacturing districts. Suppose you are going to in the Dammam industrial city, third or second, in those areas it might be 76 meter, because in those areas we can see the high hazard is available. So if there is a fire, we need more water, we need more high stream of water to fight the fire. If you are going to the residential area, we can see that the number goes 153 meters, means between two hydrant the maximum distance between two hydrant is 153 meters, right? This rule John Freeman given 100 years ago, but still this rule is very useful for most of the case, and still we are using the same. But if you are going to the petrochemicals in Aramco or Sabic and all those areas, you can see the hydrants are spaced 45 meters to 60 meter between two hydrants. The reason behind that, in the petrochemicals facilities or chemical plant, we have high hazard chemicals and gases are available which catches the fire. It might takes more water at high flow and high pressure requirements, so we need to closely space the hydrant in those areas. So keep in mind, residential area we can go maximum 153 meters, and the lowest one is just what is happening? And the lowest one in the petrochemicals arrangement and most hazardous area we can go between 45 to 60 meters. We'll discuss that one in detail when we'll discuss this one in the fire protection design in the last, maybe after 4 weeks we'll go to the fire protection design. We'll discuss this one there. Next point, Freeman says that if there is a fire protection connection to a fire tanks, the fire protection supply should be after domestic consumption. Let's say in 24 hours, how much water for the domestic use. Even after that, every water is consumed by the building occupants or the people around those areas. We need to have maximum available water for fighting the fire. We cannot compromise with the fire protection system. Okay, coming back to water pressures, if you are looking in 31 and 33 pages, do you have guys any doubt before this slide from beginning? If you have any doubt, you can speak now. Okay, we'll move on to water pressures. I think we discussed this point in fire protection hydraulics, but we'll just discuss a little bit again to make it clear for us that what is the principle of the pressures. The normal pressure, what we call the normal pressure, is that the net pressure inside a pipe, right? When water is flowing inside the pipe, the pressure acts perpendicular to the pipe. You can see this is a PN, is a normal pressure. This is a normal pressure, and pressure always act perpendicular, means it act around the wall, right, to the wall, to the thickness of the pipe. And the residual pressure, when water started flowing in the system, how much pressure is balanced, right? Because when there is no flow, we call it static pressure. We discuss in the hydraulics. When there is a flow, now there is no static pressure. It is residual pressure. Means while water is flowing, how much water we have balance in the system. This is the basics of static pressure or normal pressure. We can see that one we discussed in the hydraulics back. I think if any guys can, any guys out of you can explain me regarding this figure from those previous discussion in hydraulics, so that I can understand you guys still remember what we discussed in hydraulics for fire protection. Yes.
Yeah, the pressure will be just the vertical column of water that above the point that we are measuring the
Yeah,
pressure.
yeah, exactly. It depends on the height of the column. Exactly. It doesn't depend on the shape of the column, but depend on the height of the column. The higher the height, the higher the pressure will get. Okay, we'll move on. Here we have the residual pressure. Now, residual pressure is the pressure in the system, when hydrant is flowing, because that hydrant becomes the flow hydrant, or we measure at that hydrant flow pressure. And some far away from that, we have the residual hydrant. We call it test hydrant or static and residual pressure. We can consider here. What is the idea about that? Suppose you are working in a plant, and what we want to ensure that while water is flowing, let's say hydrant is open, fighting the fire in case of the fire. At that time, how much pressure is balanced in the system, right? As for American Water Work Association (AWWA), they said that we need minimum 20 psi residual pressure in the system while water is flowing. What is the idea of that? If the pressure goes below 20 psi, there are two concerns. The first concern, the stream, the quality of water going very high and very far from the openings of the nozzle to fight the fire, that might decrease, right? If the pressure and flow is not sufficient, the water will not go at higher rate, right? So it might not be sufficient to fight the fire. The first one. The second one is not related to the fire protection system, but yeah, it is related to the public health supply. We discussed a lot regarding public work supply and all. They said what the water supply companies, water supply company like here we have Marafi and all kind of the purveyors. What they want to know is the pressure in the system, in the piping, goes below 20 psi. There might be chances, some groundwater may come into the piping through some leakage and all, and those groundwater can contaminate our fire protection system. The public supply waters. So if the 20 psi pressure inside in the system is that, we can say that the flow and the flow will be suitable and the stream will be okay. Means this is the acceptable by NFPA if you have the minimum 20 psi from the underground fire water networks while water is flowing. Now we have capacity and elevation. In page number 33 in your manual, if you are seeing the manual, you can see that one. Now we are talking about the capacity of the tank and the elevation of the tank, right? The capacity of the tank shall be sized based on the demand of the fire protection system. Let's say a big warehouse contain highly combustible and flammable materials, like let's say rubber tire manufacturing area or rubber tire storage areas, or in areas where we have high hazard materials stored, plastics and all those kind of group A plastics. In that area, if there is a fire, we need more quantity of water, and duration of the supply will also go. So we have to select based on the demand from the fire protection system. Suppose if you are designing a fire protection system, let's say you are designing a sprinkler system. Once you did your piping into the building and do some hydraulic calculation, and your hydraulic calculation says that you need 650 GPM, right? You need 650 GPM at 80 psi, right? So now we have to size the tank, and you have to size the tank based on the hazard classification, right? Maybe 120 minute as for NFPA 13, NFPA 13, NFPA 13, 120 minute is the minimum requirement for the extra hazard, right? So we have to multiply 120 minute into 650 GPM to get the water supply for our fire protection system. And also, if you are designing a tank, you should be careful regarding the refilling of the tank. A tank should be refilled within 8 hours of the full capacities. This is requirement come from NFPA 22. The last one here, we are talking about the brake tank. We discussed in the beginning regarding the brake tanks, and we will discuss after also what is a brake tank and what is a requirement for that one. So normally if you are sizing a brake tank, you will have to size the brake tank of 15-minute supply only. 15-minute supply of 150% of the rated capacity. Now what is the 150%? We are coming again and again to this point. I will just explain you this point, because we are going to use this one in fire pump, but I think most of you guys may be thinking what is 150% of the capacities. I will just discuss this in a short. I think I'm going to share again the blackboard. In fire pump design, it's designed for the rated capacity, like 100% pressure and flow, and then also relied for the overload, 150%. And the last one is designed for the churn pressure. Many guys are familiar with the fire pump, they can understand this what I'm discussing. Churn pressure is like 140%. What I am trying to say, the 150%, let's say this pump designed for 1000 BPM, okay, at 100 psi, right? And at the overload or 150% capacity, the capacity of the pump can go to 100 GPM. But at that time, the pressure into the system cannot be less than 65 psi. At 65%. So these are the conditions. These are the conditions of the fire protection system. Whenever pump design, the pump manufacturing company designed fire pump in such a way that it designed for 3 conditions. The first one, rated capacity, means we have to order a pump of 1000 DPM and at 100 psi, right? Now we have to make sure from the pump curve that pump can also work at 150% of the rated capacity, means 1500 GPM, and at that capacity the pressure cannot go below 65% of the pump capacity. The pressure cannot go below 65% of the that capacity. What I'm trying to emphasize here, suppose this is a pump, okay, this is pressure in psi and this is flow in GPM. When pump is start, when there is a zero flow pump, right? When there is a zero flow in the pump, the pressure is maximum. And this point, when there is no flow in the pump, when there is no flow in the pump, we call this point as churn. no flow or churn means the maximum pressure will be in the pump at that condition. Here we have the maximum condition, okay, in the pump, and let's say the pump is rated at this location. This is our 100%. This is our 100% capacity, means we are getting 1000 GPM and 100 PSI. And if you are going further to 1500 GPM, you know, the curve go down further to this location, right? This is our overload condition. But at this location, you know, the pressure in the system cannot go below 65, you know, 65%. So this is the meaning of overload. You know, if the why it is a 65 percent, that keep in mind that 1000 GPM pump at 100 PSI, you know, below 65% of the PSI, you know, the pressure is not enough for some of the fire protection, system. Like let's say a standpipe system, class 3 standpipe system, or class 2 standpipe system of 1.5 inch connection, or 1.5 inch opening of the hose, that need minimum of 65 PSI. For solid nozzle steam for fighting the fire. Pressure goes below that, what will happen that the flow characteristics will not be normal. So did you guys understand regarding the overload condition and the capacity? If you have any doubt, you can speak now.
Mr. Rafi, what exactly the purpose again for the overload? It's clear for me actually, but what is the purpose, or why there is this this requirement of the 150% against the 65% of the pressure, and also in the shared pressure or the zero flow, why it's 140%?
Yeah, what is the meaning of the churn pressure is that, you know, when there is a no flow, we have to test the performance of the pump based on the NFPA 25 inspection, testing, and maintenance, and we have to make sure, you know, our pump is running at as based of the manufacturer and the design. Now, what is the churn pressure? 140% of the churn pressure is that at zero flow, the maximum pressure in the system cannot go more than the rated capacity of the fire protection system, right? Let's say our system is designed for 175 psi, right? And this pump is rated at 100 psi, and at the churn it can go up to 140%, right? So the maximum pressure will be for this one will be around 140 psi. In any case, the churn pressure cannot be more than 175 psi. We want to, you know, ensure the performance of the pump by time to time. So we have the requirement from the NFPA 20, and in detail we'll go tomorrow the fire protection system. This is for the churn. Now coming to the overload, what is the meaning of overload? That, you know, suppose your pump designed for 100% and 100 psi, and our requirement comes at this range also. And in some cases, we need more water than the normal. If the pump goes, if let's say that in case of the worst fire, we are using different nozzles, right? Suppose a fire, okay, and our system designed for only 1000 GPM based on our requirement, but maybe we need 1300 GPM in those areas. In worst case of the fire, at that time the pump shall supply at 150% of the rated capacity. You know, it's the extra layer of the protection for the fire protection appliance by the pump. You got the point?
Yes.
Yeah, and also we'll discuss in the fire pump in detail. Don't worry about that one, because we have to discuss tomorrow also, and we have to discuss in the design also.
That's good.
Okay. Let's move on to our slide again. And even if your requirement is, let's say, 1000 GPM at 100 psi by your sprinkler system, you can select a pump of capacity of 750 GPM, because when the 750 GPM pump running at 150%, it will go more than 1000 GPM, right? So that is more than enough for the system. Anytime your supply, your demand by the fire protection system shall be fall below this. It shall not go beyond that. Maybe in future you have some extension in your fire protection system, so you have to be, give some extra layer of the protection. That same pump can work on the system. What the point?
Yeah, Mr. Rabi, so in this case, in the future expansions, for example,
Yeah.
if the new system or the new demand will be higher than the rated capacity,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
still,
yeah, exactly.
but still within the 150% or within whatever the pump can deliver, then we are okay.
Yeah, you are okay. Yeah, you are okay. Let's say you have a plan in your some small industry. You have 3 or 4 building. You are protected by the sprinkler system of 750 GPM. But you in the same area you install a big warehouse. Now that warehouse requires 1000 GPM and at some pressures. And if you have a pressure pump at 750 GPM, that can supply to that. In that case, you win the situations, right? But you design your pump for 500 GPM, then maybe you cannot expand because it will go only up to 750 GPM in worst case, and maybe the warehouse require more water requirement. So yes, this is the way how fire pump performance works. You can go up to 150%, but try not to go up to 150%. Try to be at least 140% only, because the 5% and those by time to time, maybe after 5 years, the performance of the driver and the coupling and the mechanical equipment will go down. The pump capacity will reduce, right? NFP 25 says that 5% is the allowed. If above 5% is the problem with the pump, then you have to think in other ways. So we can go up to 140%. That's a good practice. Okay, we discussed about the capacity and elevation. Now we are coming to, this is some of the standard size of the steel tanks. You can get this from NFPA Fire Protection Handbook and NFPA 22. The capacity range from 5,000 GPM to 500,000 GPM. Based on our requirement, we can select the steel tank size. And other capacity also permitted, subject to the approval of the authorities having jurisdiction and some insurance company. This is one type of the bolted steel tanks. We are discussing just different type of the tank as per NFPA 22. Diameter of this tank can go up from 15.1 meter to approximately. The capacity of this tank can go up from 4,000 gallon to 500,000 gallon based on the demand. We can request this kind of arrangement. And this is, this kind of arrangement we can need for the high demand for industrial supply or some petrochemicals plants. Here we have the pressure tanks. I think we are not using in the Middle East these pressure tanks. What is the meaning of the pressure tanks? That this can be used only for the small water requirement, like a small sprinkler system in a residential complex, in your homes, or some of the areas where we need only limited capacity sprinkler system, and where we don't have any space for fire pump installation, or that system is very costly for that one. So this arrangement can work without pump. The idea is that the sprinkler system will be always below the pump, below the tank, right? So that we have the advantage of the gravity. And why we call the pressure tank? From the top we have to keep 1/3 area air or inert gas. Means we need a compressor. A compressor will compress the air or gas from this piping, which will go to this tank, and here we can read the capacity of the air. And 2/3 will be water. Means 66% of the water in the tank and 33% in air in the tank. What will happen when there is a fire? The sprinkler system will break. The water, due to the gravity and also due to the pressure, right? Pressure from the compressed air, water will come ice, and we can fight the fire. Now again, this is very limited applications. Limited for private fire protection, like a sprinkler system, standpipe, and hose system. You cannot find this kind of arrangement in modern days or in our areas. You may find this kind of arrangement in USA, Canada, and all those kind of the parts. The capacity of the tank should be approved by the ASJ, right? And it's a meet the supply demand of the NFPA 14 chapter 13. Sorry, chapter 14 of NFPA 13 installation of sprinkler system. And again, you know, the maximum capacity of this tank is only 15,000 gallon, like 34 meters. So you can see the size of the tank is not so adequate for big fire protection system. Hence, this is not most common or most applicable, you can say, in fire protection industry. But again, it is discussed in Fire Protection Handbook, Society of Fire Protection Engineer, and NFPA 22 also. So we have to discuss. Now here we have one exercise, right? We have to calculate the duration of water supply from the tank. You know, let's say the capacity of the tank is 50,000 gallons, and a fire pump having capacity of 2,000 GPM, right? And the pump is running at a rated flow. Rated flow means 100% flow. So what they are trying to say, for how many minutes or how many hours the water will be going to fire protection system, you have to use your mobile for calculating this, or you have just said your idea.
That will be 25 minutes.
You have to just divide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we have 25 minutes. We just define the total gallon by a pump rate, and we can come to a solution. Everyone got that, right? Yes. Abdullah Al-Karni, Ahmad Besa replied. Anas, Muhammad Al-Haziri, Muhammad Jasiri. Okay. Moving on to the location of tanks, right? The location of tanks will be such that the tank and the structure are protected from the fire exposure. Your tanks should not be located in high hazardous area. The first thing. Let's say you are working with the SABIC or Aramco in some petrochemical facilities, and your fire pumps and the storage tanks should be, as far as possible, you have to keep from the process area, right? Like the process area where always there is a chances of high hazardous substance, material, and there is a fire, the fire will go so intense, and that fire can damage your fire protection system. So if your fire protection system is the heart of the system is not there, you cannot protect the plant. So you have to keep your fire pump unit, including the connections and tanks, as far as possible from those areas. And there is some guideline. There is some guideline for high commercial safety, UL, FM, and some of the insurance companies says based on the different. Like they said, I have read in one book. They said one quote. They said your fire pump unit should be at least 75 meters away from the process area, because they want to ensure that their system is working at full capacity in the maximum case of the fire. The second one talks about you have to put fireproofing, right? Your structures are fireproofing with 2 hours capacity. Now suppose your tank is at the top of the building and the building catches the fire. You know, the heat from the building may go to the tank, and that will damage the structural ability of the pump of the steel. Keeping in mind, steel most of the time started melting down above 500 degrees Celsius, so they will lose the mechanical strength of the materials. So what will happen? Maybe the tank will collapse after half an hour of the fire. So if the tank collapses, you don't have anything to fight the fire. Everything will be destroyed, right? So I just said you have to keep. We may need fire resistant rating of 2 hours if there is requirement for that one. Foundation of the footings, right? Foundation of the footing of the tank should be adequate support, and there should be anchorage for the towers. You know, it should properly arranged, and to avoid any kind of the collapse of the tank. Suction tank should be located as so as minimum VR piping, right? The distance between the pump and the suction tank should be minimized, should not be go too far, because if it is too far, what will happen? There will be the friction loss in the tank, and those friction loss, maybe there is enough loss that at the impeller, at the suction of the pump, the pressure goes below the required pressure at the suction by NFPA 20. If pressure goes below negative, we call it negative suction pressure. If say pressure go below 0 psi or minus 3 psi, and some even below minus 3 psi, that is not good for the fire pumps. If there is a negative suction pressure at the inlet of the suction tank, there might be some air entrapped going inside the impeller of the pump, and that will damage the pump, right, due to the cavitation and all. This one we'll discuss later on in the fire protection system. So now we have to keep our fire protection system and pump as close as possible to get the advantage of the static pressure we are getting from the tank, and to minimize the friction loss in the piping. Yes, we have a design for the earthquake resistance. Fire protection water storage tank need to be designed to resist earthquakes, right? Mostly in case of the earthquake, when there is the earth is shaking, the building if a building collapse, the first things happen after the earthquake is the fire. When there is an earthquake and building is suddenly collapse due to the various flammable and combustible arrangement in the building, there will be fire, and if there is a fire, we need to protect that by fire protection system. So if there is a chances of those areas, it's normally not common in all the areas, but make sure that in the area where there is a chances of the earthquakes, and if you are designing your fire protection system based on the earthquake protection, we have to follow some of the guidelines of earthquake protections to minimize damage of the tank, pumps, and the pipings. Now we're discussing load types, right? We have dead load, live load, and wind load. What is a dead load? Suppose there is a building, right? Your building where you are staying, all the concrete, all the solid foundation, concrete and steel structure, beam, column, everything inside your house, which is construction and which cannot be moved from one place, which cannot be moved, is fixed. We call it dead load. And for calculating the dead load of the building, you can say that the weight of the steel is 7849 kilogram per meter cube, means 7,849 kg per cubic meter, and the concrete is 2307 kilogram per meter cube. And based on the load, based on the density of the steel and density of the concrete, we can calculate the weight of the building, right? If you calculate the total weight of the building, based on that, we have to support the foundation, the basic foundation of the building. You got the point? Live load means that is moving time to time. Let's say you are going to a mall, right? You are going to a shopping complex. There is a elevated at the top of the building. There is a car parking, right? The number of cars is going and coming, and that is not fixed. We call it live load. That means that is changing from time to time. Or let's say on top of your building, right? There is a fire at the top of your building, and you are using fire hose captain to fighting the fire, and let's say you already used 1 hour of continuous discharging water to that area, right? Suppose that the capacity of your hose is 250 GPM, right? And 250 GPM per minute, 250 gallon per minute for 1 hour. Suppose what is the quantity of hours, right? 1000 liter of water means almost around 1000 kg. The weight of the water we consider while designing the building foundation and all. Otherwise, what will happen that the load of the everything will go below, above than that. Maybe the building structure cannot survive those loads and maybe it will collapse. So this is the dead load and live load, and the last one is the wind load. The wind is blowing at some high speed. It might be giving the load we have to consider like 147 kilogram per square meter for vertical plane and 88 kilogram for the projected area of a cylindrical surface, right? If there is a cylindrical surface, the area, the force is like that. So all those things we have to keep in mind, while designing a building. While now this is the job, this is not the job of the fire protection engineer. This is the job of the civil engineer or architecture engineer who want to know that what kind of the different things going to install into the building. What we matters, in case of the fire, firefighters go fighting the fire, and if the water is at the top of the building, it's more quantity accumulated, and that water added some weight. If that weight is so that cannot be tolerated by the building, the building might be collapsed, right? So we have to be part of cooperation with various disciplines of the engineering, like architectural and the civil engineering department, who will give you input on that. There should be confined into the requirement. If a tank need maintenance, so there should be confined into the requirement how someone can go inside the tank for the inspection, testing, and maintenance. And tanks shall be also designed for the lighting protections, right? As for NFPA 780, section 44 of NFPA 780. If the lighting protection required for the tank, it should be as for NFPA 44 of NFPA 780. Now talking about the tank materials, right? Tank materials can be steel, wood, concrete, coated fabric, fiberglass, reinforced plastic tanks, and so on. And that should be as for designed as for NFPA 22. And once you manufacture your tank, put at the site for installation to the piping, you have to be careful that all kind of the paint, can, dirt, any kind of the foreign material inside the tank should be clean properly, right? Clean with water and all, so that those particles cannot go inside the piping, the pump impeller. Let's say the tank is made of the steel and they are doing welding, cutting and all, something violence in that. Put the water inside the tank and then you are taking water from the tank. Maybe some of the flake of the steel or some of the foreign material will go to the impeller and it will damage the impeller. So you have to be careful regarding the cleaning of the tank after the installation. Tank and tower foundation. Regarding our tank, we are putting on some soil on some area. We have to make sure that this tank can withstand the load. The material, the support can carry the load of the tanks. Right? We have to be very careful regarding that one. The foundation of the tank cannot be constructed over buried pipe. Right? Piping, you cannot put the tank foundation above that, or you cannot keep adjacent to the existing or of deep excavation. Excavation site, and you are putting your tank at that. Maybe by time the soil of the bottom of the tank will displace from that area, and maybe tanks will fall down. And if you are making your concrete foundation for the tank, the compressive strength of the tank shall be 3000 psi or 20.69 megapascal. You guys with me, right? Or I lost the connection?
We are with you.
Yeah, okay. Now we are talking about the ground level tanks seismic requirement. When talking about the seismic requirement, we are talking about the seismic protection for the tanks, right? Flexibility of pipe connection to the tank, right? We know that when your labels, by time to time, there might be some of the some difference in the level of the level of the tank, level of the driver and the pumps, or maybe between the some difference between the suction supply and between the
Mr. Ravi,
yeah.
you come back to the slide before.
Okay, this one.
No, back.
Yeah.
No. Next.
This one.
Next. Yes, here.
Yeah.
Tanks should be put in service promptly after completion. Wood tanks may be damaged by shrinkage. How to work this?
Wood tanks, if you are keeping it empty, by time to time, there might be some shrinkage in the tank because of the properties of the material. Wood sinks by time to time. So if there is something like that, it is the properties of the wood that it will shrink. Maybe the area of the wood will decrease, and then there will be something happen to the integrity of the tanks. Yes. Hello.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like by time to time the wood may be change their properties, so we have to be careful regarding the wood. Now, for the seismic requirement for the ground level tanks, the flexibility of piping connection to the tank. You're connecting your pipe coming from the tank to the pumps, right? By time to time, maybe the pipe will go a little bit up the vertical or horizontal displacement, right? To avoid that one, we need flexible coupling. Flexible coupling means we used grooved fittings, mechanical groove fittings. We'll discuss that in a while. What is the or we the flexible connection like this one. This is one kind of the expansion joints. What will happen if there is some of the displacement in the level of the piping, maybe down and up. This will minimize that. This will cover that one, so that the pipe and connection will be remain in the same place, remain in the connection without any problem. Or you can use the grooved fittings after the pump. The second one, we have to put anchorage to the tank foundation to prevent horizontal or vertical displacement. Yeah, if you are keeping your tank, there should be a proper anchoring support for that one to avoid horizontal or vertical shift or displacement in the tank. And once again, foundation design for the tanks most of the time done by the civil engineer or architecture. So we have to work together with the structural engineer, right? The one who designed the tank, he should know what is the maximum capacity footing of the tank to overcome any kind of the situation coming in the future. This is the point number third. And if in the pump house there is any kind of the penetration through the pump, right? It is going any penetration in the pump means suppose there is a piping penetrating a wall, there should at least 2-inch clearance provided on all sides of the piping. Suppose your pipe is 4-inch, coming to the wall, there should be a 6-inch opening into that. 4-inch for your pipe and 2-inch extra or 50 mm extra for the clearance, that we may put some of the other things into that to avoid any kind of the break to the wall, or maybe we'll put let's say some filling material inside that to for fire protection rating or fire resistance rating, like fire protection barrier and all, passive fire system.